واصبح حتى بعض الناس، بعض الاطراف يعني لابد ان كثير منكم قرأ كتاب السيد حسن رفع الله عن التحجير. في ذاكرتنا كاطفال تقريبا هذا الشخص حسن رفع الله الذي هو شخص عادي وموظف حكومي من لحم ودم اصبح ممثل لكل الشرور التي اتت بها الحكومه ولكل المصاعب والوقف الغريب الذي اصبح يواجهنا. الهجره تمت الان عندما افكر فيها تقريبا عندما اتذكر مثلا القطار اللي رحلت فيه، كيف رحل الناس، كيف اخذوا امتعه الناس من بيوتهم واطفالهم وحشروهم في القطار. المشهد it was almost biblical. مشهد كأنه من اساطير الاساطير التوراتيه، وكأنها جايه من عالم الواقعيه السحريه. فجأة قرية كاملة، ونحن كنا الدفعة الخامسة في التهجير، نطلع من بيوتنا، تؤخذ كل أمتعتنا إلى الخارج، إلى خارج البيت. يأتوا ناس غرباء يضعوا عليها علامات على أمتعتنا، على حيواناتنا المنزلية، على كل ما نملك. وخلال ساعات يصبح الناس في قطار وهم جميعا يدركوا أنهم ذاهبون في رحلة في اتجاه واحد، رحلة واحدة وأخيرة، رحلة لن يعودوا منها، رحلة إلى مكان لا يعرفونه ولا يثقون في من يهيئونه لهم. مناخ فعلا تشبه مناخ هجرات الاساطير والهجرات التوراتيه. المكان الجديد نفسه، هذا المشهد الذي استمر في القطار ليومين مشهد غريب جدا ولا يبارح ذاكرتي على الاطلاق. ومن آلاف الرحلات اللي عملتها فيما بعد في حياتي أكاد أتذكر أي تفصيلة منها لحين إذا توقفت بسرعة. هذه الأجواء هي التي سبقت الهجرة، لكن معاني كثيرة جدا تتوارد في البال. وواحدة من هذه المعاني أيضا بمناسبة هذه الهجرة ولأول مرة كما أشار الدكتور صبان، سمعنا بأنه إن الحكومة يمكن مقاومتها ويمكن الاعتراض عليها. ولأول مرة سمعت من جارتنا وقريبتنا الأستاذة عن شوربجي التي كانت أعتقد هي معلمة في بداية حياتها المهنية أو في سنوات الدراسة الأخيرة في كلية المعلومات. جاءت في نهاية اليوم وروت إنها شاركت في مظاهرة في حلفة، واتكلمت عن قيادة الراحل السعادي إبراهيم أحمد للمظاهرة والكلاش مع الشرطة. والأيضا كان بدأ غريب جدا للطفل في قرية كان يعتقد به الحكومة نهائية الوجود وكلية القدرة، إن الناس يمكن أن يقاوموا الحكومة، مش كمان أي ناس، النساء هم اللي قاموا وهم اللي اشتغلوا مع الشرطة. بعض أشكال فيما بعد طبعا تعرفنا على اشكال مقاومه واسعه جدا، لكن بعض هذه البدايات الاولى ونحن لازلنا في قرانا حول فكره التهجير كانت عندها تاثيرات عميقه جدا على حياه المجتمع كله وعلى طريقه تفكيرنا في نفسنا وفيما يحدث لنا. في حلفة جديدة ايضا ما اتكلم عن المشاكل العمليه والاعتبارات العاديه اللي نتكلم عنها، لكن الوضع ايضا كان ساحر وغامض ويشبه اجواء الروايات. ناس من اماكن قرى صغيره باراضي زراعيه محدوده جدا انتشروا في مساحات واسعه جدا، وفوجئوا كما قال الحديث قبلي بطقس غريب جدا. ولد حالات ايضا من الكراهيه والخوف والتردد والشعور باليأس والعجز امام 50,000 أسرة هجرت. كل هذه الاشياء بالاجواء التي خلفتها ايضا تركت يعني الان انا اظن انها تفتح مجال ضخم جدا للكتابه الروائيه بشكل رئيسي. احنا نستعيد هذا من ولايتنا بشكل اخر ايضا. واحده من الغرائب التي مثلا لا زالت في بالي انه ايضا الناس حصلوا على فلوس كثيره من التعويضات، وظهر اشكال من الاستهلاك، والسلع اللي توفرت في القريه كانت قريبه جدا. واحد اقاربنا في القريه الصغيره اللي فيها 300 بيت بس فتح دكان لبيع الساعات المنبهه، اللي هي فكره غريبه جدا، ولا يحتاج اي فلاح في اي قريه في العالم ساعه منبهه، لكن اي اسره اقتنت ساعه منبهه. وانا اذكر انه كان في ساعه منبهه باستمرار، ومرات نلعب فيها ونفوز على اي، لكن لم يستفد منها احد يعني اي فائده. في اجواء زي كده انخلقت نزاعات جديده بين الاهالي حول الاملاك. أنا حقيقة مرتب كاتب عليه كثيرة ومرتب بوقت أول من هذا، لكن أيضا أقول بعض الملاحظات هذا. بعد ما استقرينا في حياتنا الدينية وأصبحنا نتابع ما يحدث في اليوم مثلا، ظهر مصطلح غريب جدا، كلمة غريبة جدا لابد منه صبار وكل الناس اللي مروا بالتجربة يتذكروها. كلمة غريبة جدا اسمها كندور 181. في دول عنده فكرة عن كندور 181. الخطوط الكندور هي الخطوط النسبات الارتفاعات، وكندور 181 هو الحد الأقصى الذي كان يفترض أن يصل إليه الماء في وادي حلفا، وبالتالي الناس المفروض يسكنوا خارج كندور 181، لكن المويه ما وصلت ولا وصلت. المهم كميه من المصطلحات والافكار واشكال السلوك دخل على ناس كانوا يعني قاعدين في منطقه مغلقه ومنغلقه بشكل يشوش على حياتهم تشويش غريب جدا. ولم يؤرخ لكل هذا، لم تكتب روايه انا اعرف هذا لكن اختلف بالقول بانه ادعو الناس مره ثانيه لانه نعيد توثيق هذا الحادث العظيم بطرق مختلفة وبوسائل مختلفة، ونجمع ما هو موثق منها في مكان واحد يتيح للباحثين والذين يريدون أن يحصلوا على مزيد من المعرفة والخبرة بهذه التجربة الخرافية الحصول عليها. شكرا جزيلا.
نشكر الأستاذ محمد عبد الحميد الناشط والمفكر النوبي ومدير القسم مدير القسم العربي بالإذاعة السودانية بهولندا، عن محاضرته التي كانت بعنوان الهجرة النوبية. سيداتي سادتي، باسم الرابطة النوبية بالمملكة المتحدة نترحم على فقيد النوبة وعضو الرابطة المرحوم ماهر الحاج، والذي وافته المنيا على عجل قبل أسبوعين، مخلفا وراءه قدر كبير من الحزن والأسى لكل من عرفه وشهد له بحسن الخلق وطيب المعشر. رحمه الله رحمة واسعة، ولذويه وأصدقائه الصبر والسلوان. أطلب منكم أن نقف دقيقة حدادا على روح الفقيد باسم الرابطة النوبية بالمملكة المتحدة. الآن سيداتي سادتي، نقدم لكم الدكتور عارف جمال محمد أحمد، مؤلف كتاب صباح في سرمته، وسيلقي لنا كلمة عن مساوئ قيام السدود في مناطق النوبة. The stage is yours.
I'm not that professional. I have 2-3 stories maybe that I'd like to relate. Can somebody put this up, please? Too much. 2 or 3 stories and just commenting on them. So the first story that we have is, or that I can think of, is when my father was born. And I think Sabah mentioned this, that most of our livelihood, and if you are a Nubian worth your soul, then your grandfather was either a janitor or he was a security person. If not, then you are not a true Nubian.
Wait for me until I come to be
whether the Egyptians like it or not, these have made the most wonderful women and most wonderful men in the history of humanity, whether it be in Egypt or in Sudan. I'm referring to systematic now. So my father was born, and then after a while you would have to go and get a birth certificate. You get it from Haifa. Of course, we are from Sarameto, a very small also village. So my grandfather is there, and Zahra, again we call them by the name of their mother, right? So he went to get the birth certificate. When he got to the hospital and he asked for the birth certificate, it was written Jamal Muhammad Ahmed, Sudan. And my grandfather was a little man. When he came out, he looked at the birth certificate and he said, "Who's calling my son Sudani?" And of course, they would usually take in a boot, or they would take a dagger or something with them and so on. And he took his boot, and the poor young guy who had nothing to do but just write the birth certificates was followed around and, tell this sheikh, can somebody keep him away from me? So they had to calm down the sheikh, bring him down, and well, inshallah, we're going to correct it. And I saw the birth certificate. And in the birth certificate, there is Sudani, and then they made a kind of a circumflex there, and they put over it Nobi. Okay? So just to tell you that, in a way, Nubia was very much secluded, and the way these human beings, these persons, when they wake up in the morning, whether they are in Egypt, whether they were in Britain, whether Nubia is the north. It is the door that took everybody. They didn't go south. And they went for education, and the education was in the north. There's plenty of history, all of you know it, I'm not going to be boring and repetitive. But all of them went north. And one of the major things that we're really looking for is to educate their families. But they looked at themselves as Nubians first. We are Nubians, and then we're human beings. whatever it is, you know. We are Nubians and we are a little bit secluded. My comment at the end is, and I know it's a very special day, but we should also think that, you know, now Nubians include a much bigger kind of term, and our children come from everywhere. My children in California, one of them is marrying a Middle Eastern woman, the other one is marrying an American, and they are still Nubian, right? If we have this gene, we keep it how, and I know all of you have a story like this, living in the United Kingdom, France, everywhere a Nubian is in the diaspora. So we have to open up a little bit, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so this is one story about how we looked at ourselves as being a secluded kind of kingdom or population for what you have. The second story is taken from Muslim Hijra, the Shimal. There was this guy in the 50s, and he had a crooked, maybe some of you know him, you know, he had a crooked cane, and he would be going in the suit and crying, "We are going," in Nubian, of course, it loses its meaning when I'm saying it in English. "We are going to die, we are going to be drowning," and all of you who have seen, who have been to Nubia, really the Egyptian, the old Egyptian pharaohs and their engineers, the pyramids, were not a figment of imagination. When I went, and I remember very well, and I'm looking at these biscuits of limestones, in the shadows of the dusk, in the shadows of the sunset, you really can see silhouette of, I don't know if this is what you're saying, but you see silhouette of pyramids. So it was there already. And what happened was, basically, this guy was saying, "We're going to drown. And the water is going to go to, what is it? I-80, Kontur. So he was saying, and everybody considered, right? Not Majnun, but an eccentric, Darwish. Okay? And he had, his jalabia was green, and he had a red turban and so on. So everything that fits. In about 1959, there were these wonderful men, all of them wearing suits and so on, came to the mayor, and they had these portfolios with them. And of course, there is India, right? Everything is known by everyone. So the moment that they went into the mayor's house and they came out, people started running outside. This was the declaration that we are going to build a big wall. Go, that's one dam. We are going to build a dam, right? So everybody was running, and they couldn't believe it that they are going to be drowning. My point is, the population was introduced to the idea of the dam and the flooding very late on. And this is one of the worst things that's happening around the world right now. And I think this is a very dangerous thing that's happening in Ghana, because we have a very good record, a very good, bad track record of 50 years for Merowi to be built and for the Manasir to have suffered. We did not suffer, the Manasir were very well organized in the Exodus when they took them away. And suddenly, the guy is in the middle square of Haifa and saying, "We're going to drown, we're going to drown." Everybody who was in the street at that time looks at him, and for 1 second, this dervish, instead of being a dervish, he really became a clairvoyant. He became somebody who can see the future. Everybody wants to touch his hand, and maybe he can tell if this woman is pregnant with a boy or a girl. So, the idea of also they didn't know what was going on is very important. The last one, the last story, and I'm going to take your time here, is what I wrote. What we need really is stories, right? Stories of how our grandfathers, grandmothers, and so on. I'm not talking about academic stories, but simple, stupid stories that we can tell our children, relate to them, and maybe give them a little bit of taste and a little bit of knowledge of where they come from. So this is, it's called Exodus into Exile. Nasser was strong. The Sudan government may be weak. Nasser was a pharaoh, you all know that. Those who were there during we all adore Nasser, right? Who didn't cry when Nasser died, right? There were so many, so for Nasser to say, I'm going to build a dam, nobody's going to. So Nasser was strong, Sudan was naive and weak. They fought and they fell. Nasser paid $50 million to build the dam. The Sudan accepted from his hand. How much did we end up paying? $45 million, right? Okay. And then Sudan paid $45 million just to evacuate their people. Goes on, the point goes on, and I'm just going to say, when my father went into that train, after Abu said, you can't fly. It was Ahmed Khair at the time, the foreign minister, and he said, Al-Hafawin ma yimshu. They are not supposed to go leave their post. All of these people wanted to go and be with their family in those trains, right? And many of them resigned. And my father, but then he went to join his family and his mother specifically. The train cars were packed with people, all weeping where they sat. The engine starting up, the gas of steam, and then one woman had forgotten something. So they let her out. She ran and ran across the sand. And after a long baffling wait, they saw her coming through grey and heavy mist. It was sundown. She wore the long jarjar and walked so slowly and with such conflicted step, it seemed that she was being dragged. It was very heavy coming back to the train. She carried nothing in her hand. All faces looked towards her with interrogation. The fact that this woman left the train when the train sounded, it was a chartered train, so they would stop. The fact that she left, she said, I have to go back home. Everybody waited. They are expecting something. When she comes back, she's got a goat, she's got a dog, she's got a baby in her, something. But she had nothing. She just came back to the train and went inside. And the question was, she explained that she had never gone back to do what she had never left undone before. When she went out, she locked the door out of unwanted animals and beasts. She went back to lock the door. She didn't, the idea is, it gives you an idea that she said, all my life, whenever I left my home, I would have to close the door. I forgot I closed the door. So the idea is, many people didn't know where they were going to. And this is one, unfortunately, a very bad problem and mistake development. Because in the 50s, we hinged this word, we put it up there, we said, development. And development were many things. And one of the developments was, it was easy, let's make Aswan Dam. Aswan Dam was supposed to give at least 90% of Egypt electricity. Now it doesn't give it more than 10%. With a whole slew of problems that now we have even worse that's coming our way. A dam that's called the Millennium, right, in Ethiopia. And already the Ugandan have a dam. So this river is suffocating. Somebody said, free the river, I think Professor Bell, right? The river is alive. And people think of the river as a dead thing. I'm not going to go through all of the environmental problems that a dam can bring, but a major thing, and I really believe in this, a major thing that a dam can bring when the dam is so ferociously against people in the settlement, it goes against their culture, the fabrics of their livelihood. When they moved the Nubians from Halfa to Khashmal Girba, there is no river. And what do you call those? You are mostly here Nubians. What do you call it? Al-Nil. No, Bahr, right? Bahr. I've never heard it, you know, Bahr al-Tawr, right? This is what my grandmother would say. We went to the sea. Never did they think of it as a river. When a baby is born, you take it